And this was bound to happen. Pakistan netas, others asking the government, the Pakistan government, to review Trump's nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Several Pakistani politicians and notable figures have asked the government to reconsider its decision to recommend President Donald Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize after the US bombed Iran's 3 nuclear sites. The government, in a surprise move on Friday, announced it could nominate Trump for the prestigious award due to his peacemaking efforts during the recent India-Pakistan conflict. A letter of recommendation signed by Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishak Dar has already been sent to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee in Norway. But the decision came under scrutiny after the US bombed Iran's Fordo, Isfahan and Natanz nuclear sites, joining Israel to dent Tehran's nuclear program. The Dawn has reported that some leading politicians demanded the government review its decision in light of this recent development from yesterday. Netas and others within Pakistan exercising pressure on the government to review their decision to send in Donald Trump's name or nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Many netas and notable figures have asked the government to reconsider this decision given the embarrassment that they would face after America attacked 3 nuke sites in Iran just yesterday. The government, in a surprise move on Friday, had announced it would nominate Trump for the prestigious award. It was being speculated for a while now, and they did come out and make that announcement. I'm going to go straight across to Mir Farid for more details on that story. Mir, this is embarrassment essentially for the Pakistan government. I mean, how on earth will they explain this recommendation to the Nobel Peace Prize, given that Pakistan yesterday condemned the attack on the part of America, and American attacks in Iran were condemned by Pakistan?
Well, the Pakistani hypocrisy is being called out now. Everyone is talking about it. The fact that on one hand, Pakistan, there were protests in Pakistan, massive protests in support of Iran, targeting Israel and calling this naked aggression as far as US and its ally Israel is concerned on the sovereignty of Iran. And then on the other hand, you have Pakistani army chief who was in Washington in America for 5 days, even broke the bread with President Trump. Now, in the heat of that, it seems that it was so overwhelming for Pakistan army that they decided that it is time to officially back President Trump for Nobel Prize. Now, this is something obviously has not gone well with the Janta, with the public, who say that on one hand, you were saying that you're with Iran, you're condemning US strikes on the nuclear assets of Iran, you're condemning Israel. And on the other hand, you are backing President Trump, who ordered these strikes on Iran. And we know that tacitly, whatever Israel is doing, it has
Let's come back to you in a moment from now. Be with us, Mir Farid, getting in those details. I'll bring in Sushant Sareen also. Thank you so much for your time, Sushant Sareen. How do you look at this huge diplomatic blunder on the part of Pakistan 2 days after they recommend Donald Trump's name for the Nobel Peace Prize? Is this development from yesterday, which is obviously, embarrassed the country? Now, pressure within Pakistan on the government, on the Pakistan government, to review this decision of sending Trump's name to the Nobel Prize Committee. Okay, we'll just in fact fix that audio line with Sushant Sareen in a moment from now. Apologize for that, but these are details that we have with us at this point in time. Essentially, it's a development that we're reporting on as far as the letter of recommendation signed by Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishak Dar is concerned. It's been already sent to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee in Norway. I'll go back, in fact, to Mir for more on that. Mir, how can this decision on the part of Pakistan really been reviewed, given that they've already sent in this recommendation?
Well, it is egg on the face. There is no doubt about it. This is diplomatic embarrassment for Pakistan in many ways because, as I said, on one hand, they have been backing Iran. And to the hilt, in fact, there were protests in Pakistan. The people have been openly out and backing Iran, calling it naked aggression. And in fact, egging on the government to support Iran in any which way. But then, on the other hand, you had the army chief, General Asim Munir, in fact, Field Marshal, as he has been redesignated to. He was in Washington and he broke the bread with President Trump. So obviously, this is hypocrisy, and this is something that's been called out by the people of Pakistan itself. Army has embarrassed itself, and so has the civilian government. Obviously, we know that it is in many ways a puppet, and it is the army who really calls the shots. And in this case, also, it seems the invite to the army chief has been so overwhelming that Pakistan has backed officially, sending a recommendation letter and saying that President Trump, simply because of the fact that he is the main person who stopped the war between India and Pakistan.
Mir, be with us. I'll just come back to you in a moment from now. Mir Fareed getting in those details. I understand that Sushant Sareen, in fact, is also with us. Sushant Sareen, I was asking you, how do you look at this big blunder on the part of Pakistan? Essentially, how are they going to be now reviewing this decision, in light of the developments from yesterday?
Look, you have to understand Pakistan. Pakistan is a shameless country. No country with any modicum of dignity would do the kind of stuff which the Pakistanis have done, the kind of apple polishing they've done of Donald Trump. It goes beyond even, the normal kind of courtesies that are extended to another head of state. So you have to keep in mind that they're utterly shameless when it comes to trying to achieve or ingratiate themselves with somebody. Now, they recommended him for a Nobel Peace Prize. They got egg on their face the very next day because they were also pretending that they are now going to be top dogs in the region and they are the ones whose services will be used to effect some kind of a ceasefire, rapprochement, some kind of diplomatic initiatives will be taken, courtesy the Pakistanis, and they will be at the center of the world. So they had these delusions about themselves, and then they had, this proclivity of theirs to try and flatter the other side. And now what has happened is that they have egg on their face because the sentiment on the street is very different from what the Pakistani state or the military-run state is trying to achieve by trying to suck up to Donald Trump or the Americans or to anybody who will give them a few dollars, who will give them a couple of deals, who will give them some importance, say something nice about them. So they are at that level. So what they will try and do is they will try and make a show and dance for the public consumption, but privately they'll continue to do business with the Americans, something which the American Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio has said publicly, that many of these countries, I would imagine talking about Pakistan, have agreed with us in public. They agreed with Donald Trump. Donald Trump said that Asim Munir agreed with him when he met him on Iran. So they agree with whatever the Americans are likely to do and whatever the Americans are going to do. They are not going to oppose them in any meaningful way except for letting out some hot air and telling the Americans that this is hot air. Now, this is Pakistani political culture. This is exactly what people like Asim Zardari, whose son is going around to the entire world pretending that he's some kind of a great mujahideen and, great warrior. His father and their prime minister, nominated prime minister, had told the Americans that you keep dropping drones on our people in the tribal areas and we will keep criticizing you, but you don't stop. You keep killing people in Pakistan. Now, that is the country you're dealing with. So being double-faced is par for the course for the Pakistanis. It's not a big deal.
All right, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment, Sushant Sareen. Thank you for your time, your perspective on that story that we are tracking. Essentially, this has got to do with pressure now building on Pakistan, essentially, with groups now saying that Pakistan has to withdraw its recommendation to nominate the US President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Award, saying that the country has got blood on its hands. In fact, listen into Jamiat Ulema Islam Fazl, who has demanded Pakistan government to withdraw its recommendation to nominate US President Donald Trump, saying US has the blood of Afghanistan, Iraq and other Muslim countries on its hands.
जिसके हाथों से फलस्तीनियों का खून बह रहा है और आज जब ईरान पर हमले कर रहा है, क्या ये अमर के अपने दायरे में झूठा साबित नहीं? और अमरीकी कांग्रेस की इजाजत के बगैर किसी मुल्क पर हमला करने की उसको इजाजत क्यों नहीं? तो उसने अपने मुल्क के कानून की खिलाफवर्जी की है और अपने कानून की खिलाफवर्जी। लिहाजा हमारा हक बनता है, हमारा हक बनता है कि हम अपनी हुकूमत सिर्फ इस बात का मुताबिक करें कि ट्रम्प के लिए अब नोबेल इनाम किस बात